My name is Jose, and everything began on February 17, 1988, when I was walking back from Mass as usual. The way from my house to the church is considered very dangerous by most people. That is because I live on a farm located near a mountain range, and the only way to get somewhere is to cross the road, which by the way has no sidewalks. So, I and the other Catholics always walked in total darkness, when there were no cars passing by, for about 40 minutes, in order to get to our beloved church. On this day I had left home late, and the road was completely dark and lonely, and everyone had already gone to Mass. I was walking in the darkness, when I saw a small altar with a lighted candle in the middle of the woods. That sort of thing is very common around here, so I didn't mind it. I happened to see something moving inside the altar, and when I looked, it was a woman wearing a pink dress, with black hair, and she was moving her head from side to side non-stop like crazy. I hurried my steps, and didn't look back. During Mass I kept thinking about the woman. Who was she? Had I seen a ghost? But I noticed that no one had mentioned the incident, and here, when something out of the ordinary happens, it spreads and everyone knows about it. I played my role of a good Christian, appearing to be in tune with what the priest was saying, and at 10 p.m. I returned home by the same route, but this time with all the other people. When I arrived near the place where I had seen the altar, I noticed that it was there, but there was no sign of any woman. I thought about telling someone about it, but remembered how ignorant people here were, and that they would call me crazy, so I kept my doubts to myself. The next day, I woke up at 4:30 in the morning as usual, and before eating something and starting work, I made up an excuse that I needed to buy some milk and left. Of course, my intention was to pass near the altar, and off I went. This time I was able to get very close, and saw that inside there were 2 red candles, a basket with some rotten fruit, and a handful of hair stuck on a nail that was inside the altar. Never before a handful of hair had caused me such fear and apprehension. I stood there for a while, thinking about it, when I saw a woman coming out of a bush, and I knew that she was the owner of the clump of hair. She was completely battered, and at the time I felt some relief, because not only did I confirm that she wasn't a ghost, but I also confirmed that she was just another drunk like so many women in the area. She looked at me and smiled, showing me a mouth with missing teeth. I smelled something very strange, like the stench of urine or the piss of a dog. I hurried to leave, when she grasped my arm with unusual strength and spoke. "You saw me yesterday, didn't you? Then get ready because you're next." "Next for what?" I asked angrily. "Just next." And having told me this, she turned around, and vomited a liquid so red I swore it was blood. I got out of there as fast as I could, leaving the clump of hair there. I hurried back home without buying the milk, the memory of that woman making me feel paranoid. I told myself not to worry, after all the people in this region are all a bit crazy due to the isolation and poverty we faced, but there was still something wrong about all that. After a hard day's work on a nearby farm, I came home and lit some candles, since there's no electricity here. I remember heating up some coffee and drinking it without tasting it, while the woman's vomit kept playing in my head. Suddenly, I heard a noise coming from outside, as if someone was running through the bushes. I went into the bedroom, got my shotgun and a candle, and opened the window. I looked around, but I couldn't see anything. It wasn't even windy, and that's when I felt a very strong sting in my canine tooth. I gave a loud scream of pain, and fell to the ground, writhing. It felt like my tooth was being pulled, and the more I struggled the pain only increased. I tasted a strong rush of blood, and ran to the bathroom, which was completely dark. I rinsed my mouth out in the sink, and ran to get another candle, and when I looked in the mirror I saw something unimaginable behind me. First I was startled by my own image in the mirror, as dark, almost black blood dripped from my mouth, and trickled down to the floor as my teeth throbbed, and that's when I noticed something dark behind me. It was a black, hairy being with red eyes like a cat's in the dark, but they were big eyes with no pupils, and it had a very large horn that went around like a snail, and all my awareness of what was happening lasted less than 2 seconds, before I turned and ran out of the bathroom, and out of my house like a madman. I ran desperately through the dark bushes without seeing anything, trying to get to the nearest house, which was Johnny's, but during my frantic run I looked ahead trying to see something, and I ran into the creature from the bathroom. I felt the texture of those black hairs against my body, and I smelled the same animal smell that I smelled coming from the woman. His body was hard as a rock, and I fell face first onto the floor, and could see that his feet looked like kangaroo's feet. I didn't know what to do anymore, and I was screaming as loud as I could, when I felt myself being lifted by the hair, and that demon looked me straight in the eye. I can't explain how I felt. All I know is that for a few seconds I began to feel familiar with him, and that's when my neck was bitten without hesitation by the creature. I started to ask for forgiveness for my sins, for I was sure that I was going to die, and I felt the flesh being torn from my neck as blood gushed out, and the creature made a sound like a crying baby. Suddenly I heard a snap, and woke up in Johnny's house. He told me that he heard my screams, picked up his rifle, and saw the creature biting me, and then he shot it countless times mercilessly. I fainted, and when the creature fell, it turned into a woman, while a black liquid overflowed from every orifice in that lifeless body. He took me to his home and bandaged me precariously, as we had no access to any means of communication, and the nearest hospital was too far away. The next day, when I regained consciousness, I felt better, and when I went to take a shower and looked in the mirror, I had the impression that my canines were slightly larger, and a red gleam flashed through my eyes. My story ends here, and according to Johnny, when he returned to the place where the woman's body lay, there was nothing there but the black liquid that had penetrated the earth like oil.